what's up, everybody? Isaac here, Civil Engineering Academy. Excited once again, to be on another podcast episode with you. Definitely enjoy doing these. Hopefully you're enjoying listening to them, but it's always fun to do this stuff and, share with the world news and information related to civil engineering, and also helping you on your own journey to become a professional engineer if you are headed down this route. So anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for giving us a like and a subscribe or whatever else, wherever you're finding us. So anyway, we're excited about today's episode. I bring on a special guest. His name is Callewaert, and he is actually a mechanical engineer, a professional engineer, a PE with a PMP. He also has his MBA. He has quite the resume. I wanted to bring him on because he details his own journey, not only into engineering, but he's held roles as a vice president, as a chief product manager, and really has spent a lot of his career in the product development arena. But one of the things I wanted to bring him on about is that he has a very deep resume, lots of credentials as well, but also is in the job market and trying to navigate dealing with a job that didn't pan out so well and a project ended, and then trying to find himself back in the job market, trying to find something, but is extremely qualified to work really anywhere, and trying to navigate that scenario. So it's a really unique opportunity to kind of listen in and get his opinion on what are some best practices if you find yourself in that situation. But I thought the wisdom that he shared in this episode is really good and really applicable for those that find themselves with a deep resume that may be actually looking for work right now. So anyway, I enjoyed talking to Craig. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. If anyone is in the hunt for someone with a vast bit of knowledge about product development in a lot of other areas, including project management, he's your guy. So anyway, with that long introduction, let's get to my interview with Craig. I think you're really going to enjoy this, and it's coming up right after this. All right, Craig, we are live with our podcast. Thanks for jumping on the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. I appreciate you doing this with us.
Well, thanks for asking me, Isaac.
Yeah, we kind of connected over LinkedIn, which is an awesome tool to do this kind of stuff. And I was super impressed by all the stuff that you've done in your career. And I just wanted to talk about maybe some of those pieces and other advice that I'm sure we can uncover based on your years of experience. So I always like to start these asking about your background into engineering. How did you find yourself into this world of engineering?
I think it was a typical engineer. I loved as a kid taking things apart, putting them back together, and sometimes they work. Just getting into the physical things, repairs, etc. I can remember changing the oil in my car as a high school student, and really struggling with some placement of either the filter or the drain plug, and I'm thinking, who put this here? Yeah. Can I do that? So I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I love products. I loved figuring things out, solving problems, math and science. And really I picked mechanical engineering only because it was the broadest of the categories of engineering.
It's true. It does touch, you definitely go into a lot of different areas that civils kind of put the brakes on. So that's fascinating. Well, that's great. I mean, were there any family members that influenced your decision to go to this field? Any uncles, cousins, any other that engineering brother somewhere?
No.
What's been surprising?
Yeah. And I have actually inspired other family members, which has been kind of rewarding. I've got a nephew and a cousin, both quite a bit younger than me, who got into engineering and they're enjoying it.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about all the stuff that you've been involved with, but maybe before we do that, I know you've got a lot of credentials in terms of your professional engineer. You have an MBA. I think you have your PMP as well, project management professional. So
yeah.
I am curious before we dive into anything else, but how do you feel like let's start with maybe the MBA. How do you feel like that helped your engineering career so far?
I liked learning, obviously, and my goal is to be a lifelong learner, and so either it's towards a degree or an objective, or it's to pick up some area I'm weak in, or just to brush up on something. The MBA really came about because I had been involved with engineering products or modifying the product for export to Japan. So we had established a joint venture. I was hired to do the engineering work on this, and it was myself and another guy, and we were managing this project. And so I modified the product. I certified the product, and got to do testing and design work. But eventually, the company was having financial troubles and decided to stop the joint venture and stop working for Japan. And I thought about it, and it made sense, but I really didn't understand the financials behind it. And I thought, if I'm going to be managing projects and doing successful projects, clearly financials are very important. And so I wanted to do the MBA for a few reasons. One, so that I could talk very intelligently to everyone involved about why the project was going to pay back the company. That was probably first and foremost. The other part was, as an engineer, you're always an inventor. And the classic dream is to start off on your own and do that. And I also thought, well, an MBA is kind of critical. I should know how to do some things if I'm going to work on my own. And one of the prerequisites, it took me 7 years to get that, because there were so many prerequisites I didn't have from my life as an engineer. And one of those was simple accounting. I'd never taken an accounting course, and so I had to take this 200 level accounting course to be prepared for the MBA. And yeah, it was obvious and clear, and I was never going to run a business without knowing how to do accounting.
That makes sense. Well, I think it's a great combination. If you have an engineering degree with an MBA, you really open up doors into moving into, either ownership of your own company or even just moving up within that company, and trying to grow with it.
Yeah, it's been really good. You always have to decide for yourself if you want to do the work yourself or if you want to understand the work somebody else is doing. And a lot of what I've been doing is trying to understand the work that others do as I lead teams or lead people.
That makes sense.
Not that I'm lazy and don't want to do any work myself, but that was the first battle when a long time ago when I got my master's in mechanical engineering. Finite element analysis was really just starting up. That's how old I am. But so I became this expert with a master's in mechanical engineering and knowing finite element analysis, and it was being asked by people I worked for, well, why don't you want to do this? At that time they sat in the dark and worked full time in front of a screen, crunching numbers, and that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to build products. And yeah, if those products are going to break, I needed to be able to talk with an expert and say, I think it's weak here. Can you run some analysis for me?
That's that all makes sense to me.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun when I was at Case. I had to design a wheel loader bucket, and it was cracking in one spot. And the guy running the finite element analysis, I'm not sure he ever left his computer. He just lived there, and he loved it, and it was fantastic because he could turn around analysis at record time. But I showed him the design, and he showed me the weak spot, and I said, yeah, I agree. So we're going to take off material here, and here, and here, and blend these, and get the stresses to flow. And when he did all that, he said, this design is no good. It's red everywhere. Well, if you're designing a bucket, which is a working implement, you need those stresses to be pretty even for all that. And, red everywhere just means they're even everywhere. And it's just whatever scale you're using that drove it, but he couldn't believe that that was the right design.
That's interesting. I guess that leads me to kind of ask, has there been a pretty messy project that you remember working on, and how did you manage to make something that was messy successful?
Well, most projects are messy.
Maybe, is there a favorite project? Do you remember?
One of the messy projects is I had changed roles, and I've been managing engineers and engineering projects for my career, and I had an opportunity at Volvo Construction Equipment to hire on as a project manager, not an engineer. And so I took on this project management role, reporting to a project management office, and it just opened my eyes to how you can run projects in a very specific, detailed way. And, that project office led to my studying project management, and that was what led to the PMP certification.
Which I also think is another good combination.
It's a challenge leading projects without having the people reporting to you. So that was the first project I took over. And I took over a project that wasn't going the best, was the way it was described to me. And the previous project manager had been a bit disengaged. When I took over, it was one of those situations where every month I was involved in the project, the more I knew about it, the more I needed to delay the project, because it was clear it wasn't going to meet its goals. And I had 3 successive monthly meetings with upper management where I delayed the project yet another month. It was a struggle to learn the project and its state quick enough, because it was so messy. It was a struggle to communicate the environment properly to everyone, and yet keep enough not momentum, but enthusiasm in the project team that it's messy, and everyone knows that. But all right, here's the real target. Let's get this thing where it can be. Let's draw a stake in the sand and say this is all the content it could have. Now, when can we launch this? It ended up launching successfully. I mean, successfully meaning pretty close to target cost. On target was reliability, and about 6 months late.
Got it done, though.
Yeah, which also set us up for the follow-up project, which was probably an important part of being able to put that stake in the sand, because we could say, okay, we're not going to do these now, but we've got another project. And this is the time of diesel engine emissions really ramping up, so there had to be several progressive projects. We could define that, add it to the scope of the next project, and say, okay, that's the one that's going to capture what you're waiting for.
That's interesting. A lot of people, I guess, in their careers have to make a distinction whether they want to follow the route of being maybe an engineer and design the whole time, or if they want to go more into a people management type of route. And it seems like with you and your career, you've been a director, you've been a vice president. What's the skill set for an engineer to look at managing more people versus going into, I guess, a deep dive into engineering? And, I guess, are there benefits to going in that management route versus the engineering route?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think with the management route, you can get more done. It's the way I look at it. If you're, let's think about a new backhoe, for example. If you want to make a new backhoe, if you're the engineer, well, you get to design maybe the new bucket that goes with it. If you're the project manager, you get to say, hey, Mr. Customer, here's this whole new machine for you. My team of 15 people have been working the last 12 months to get this thing done for you. It's just a matter of scope.
That makes sense.
But that's part of why I enjoy the management. but it's tough. You have to understand what makes people tick, and engineers are an odd bunch.
Well, sometimes engineers just don't want to deal with people, right? We like
Yeah. Well, those
hard
are
job.
actually, actually the easiest ones to deal with. The ones that don't want to deal with people and just want to sit in front of the computer and do their design work all day long. The challenge with them is to help them understand what they're doing. And for that, you really need to understand what the customer requirements are and how to design things, and recognize good design when you see it.
That makes sense. Well, that's
the more challenging people are the ones that know they're right and can convince others that that's true and that the customer is wrong. That's the challenge.
I never really thought about that one before. I can see that being an issue though when it's coming the other way.
Yeah,
And you want the customer to be first.
Yeah, so it's you have to be able to picture things and explain things, a bunch of different ways, so that you can come to a common understanding. If you can explain how the customer views things to your engineers 6 different ways, they'll pick up on 1 or 2 of those and understand what it is they're truly after.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit. So let's talk about where you're at today. I know you're kind of in the hunt for work right now, and what's that been like for you? What have been the opportunities? What have been the challenges?
Yeah, it's I got the project I was in charge of got redirected.
Mm-hmm.
And in October, I got called up to my boss's office and said, he's taking another direction, and we'd like to part ways. And so that ended the work that I was doing at my last employer. It's hard and sudden and difficult, and what I
no discussion of shuffling you into a different project or being involved somewhere else.
No, and some of that was my blindness to the scenario. Nothing's ever a complete surprise, so I needed to have been more aware of what was going on and probably more aware of different alternatives. Instead, I was just hyper focused on this particular troublesome project and taking it down the wrong path, or what turned out to be the wrong path.
Okay, so you're in the job hunt. Has it been a challenge to find something in? Well, because I kind of want to set this up the right way, but here you are. You've got a resume that's deep. You've got a lot of qualifications. You're licensed professional engineer, MBA, PMP. It to me, in my eyes, it seems like it would be fairly easy to find something else out there that someone could plug you in and you get going on. But I'm just curious what your thoughts have been about, has the market been challenging for you to find something, and is that because there's a specific role that you're looking for, or is there other reasons?
Yeah. Well, one of the first things that's made the hunt difficult is this is the first time in my career that I've said I could see retirement from here, and I really like Virginia Beach.
Makes sense.
So I can't go back to the Midwest to the construction company that really needs my help. I have to try and manage what's here, have to try and fit into that position the best I can, and see what I can do. The other piece of it that has happened, I've always kept my LinkedIn profile pretty up to date and manage that. But I'm learning about applicant tracking systems, and
yes.
other automated means of rejecting good experience.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those spots where it's like who you know helps, where
Yeah,
it's a general thing and you plug it in, it's like, see ya. You're
yeah.
like,
Well, and that's who I know. Unfortunately, has I moved to this area that I like so much.
ah,
I've not been here all my career, so I don't have that many local contacts, even though I want to find a local position. So that's been one of the challenges.
okay.
Another challenge is learning about the applicant tracking systems. And in fact, I ended up taking, because I got rejected quite often, quite a bit, and I hadn't heard anything back in the first month or so. I ended up taking a, what do they call it, job search school, uh,
Mm-hmm.
how to search for a job in the modern method. And I had to revamp my profile quite a bit and change things up quite a bit. And it's amazing, but I am getting a lot better response now, and finding better availability.
That's
Some of the
great.
things that are counterintuitive, definitely have to cut your experience at 20 years. Uh,
You have to cut your experience 20 years?
if you have more than 20 years experience, it counts against you in the applicant tracking system.
Oh, did not know that.
And it's interesting, if you read through a lot of the applications, very few of them are actually asking for more than 10 years experience.
That makes sense. So they're looking for people in this kind of range that they want to
Yeah.
get you in at. Okay, that makes sense.
And then you got to play with all your keywords and present in the right objective sort of way. But that was the years of experience was probably my biggest tough one to take, because all my experiences has been so good. But
Right.
you get to talk about it once you get into the interview. But you got to get your foot in the door to get that.
That's true. Why don't you touch a little bit on what it would look like, or why you like working for maybe a bigger company versus being maybe a contractor or doing something on your own.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it before, and I talked about leading teams. It's the same kind of thought. Uh, companies, bigger companies have bigger goals, and those bigger goals lead to bigger projects. And so if you want to lead something that's going to have some impact, unfortunately, that's where you got to go.
Get a big team.
Yeah, you could strike out on your own, but, I'm not going to be developing the next car line by myself, and Elon Musk didn't do that overnight and by himself either,
No.
Um, big things take big teams. And so for me, it's been fun to work on big things. It's given me a chance to get products out everywhere in the world. I traveled the world working on that product, and it's just been fascinating. But I couldn't have done that on my own.
That's fascinating. Well, thanks for sharing that. You also have your professional engineering license, and I know you're a mechanical engineer, but how have you felt that's helped you? And I know we're Civil Engineering Academy, so we lean towards civil engineers, but with mechanicals, I have a brother that's mechanical. Not all mechanicals seem like they need their PE. I guess it depends on which area that you kind of go into, but how has the PE been a benefit in your career?
It's kind of a personal thing. I have never needed the professional engineer. What it has been for me is I've always wanted to be an engineer. And the best way to say that to the world is to be a professional engineer.
Right. That
And
is a great way to explain it.
yeah. And so I took the EIT as soon as I could. I think that was in the last year of college. And then as soon as my 5 years experience were in, I went and took the exam. So I got licensed. At that time, I was living in Wisconsin. I had gone to school in Michigan and got my PE license from Wisconsin, have kept it current ever since. It has, on occasion, been necessary. It's separated me from others. It's allowed me to sign some very important documents. It gets you visibility within the company because somehow management knows who their professional engineers are. And with mechanical engineering in a department of 100, there might only be 2 or 3.
Right.
You know, and if you want to set yourself apart, that's an easy way to do it.
That's true. Well, yeah, we definitely preach that. So definitely get your PE license. Definitely a must to get. And it's one of the things we love, at least helping civils go get. So definitely do that.
Yeah, I also just recently, which was, well, it's in the middle of COVID, so maybe 2 years ago, I decided that since I'm staying here in Virginia, I wanted to get my Virginia license as well. And so, you know, that should be easy to do with the comity or you know, somehow your license in one state, so you transfer your license to the next.
Yeah. Yep. Get it in a lot of different states. So
Yeah,
you get one. Except California, they require some extra exams, so you got to do that.
Yeah, they'll never lose the original is the way I looked at it. And because I wasn't practicing, you know, where I was signing documents every day, I didn't really need to go past Wisconsin. But now that I'm here in Virginia, I went ahead and got the Virginia license. But that was a bit of a challenge because some of the things, they needed a copy of my EIT.
Whoa. Yeah, it's going back.
That was the problem. I believe it was in 1986 that I took the test.
Whoa.
But because I took it in Michigan, but got my PE in Wisconsin, they couldn't locate that.
Wow.
And the mere fact that I passed the PE license doesn't mean I took the EIT. So I had to prove to the national board that, you know, I did indeed
did do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I think you're well credentialed. I have no doubt that you'll find something that fits you. I just, maybe as we conclude this, maybe do you have any tips or advice for anyone else that may be in a similar situation as you, that has gone through, you know, has a great resume, really credentialed, but is also struggling to find something that's out there that they're specifically trying to find? Do you have any advice or tips for them?
It's not personal. I think it's hard because you take rejection personally, and I need to count, but I think I'm close to 100 rejections now.
Oh,
last job search, you know, and those are ones that have not made it past the initial screening.
Oh,
you know, and that's
no interview. Right.
You know, so it's been an automated process that's automatically rejected me. I continue to send in those applications because a few of them click, a few of them lead me to find something and find people and so forth. So I have to continue to do that, but it's you're going to get rejected, and it's not about you. It's just that they've chosen to set up some rules about who qualifies for their position, and you don't happen to match those programmed rules.
Makes sense. Okay.
So, but you know, don't underestimate networking. So I've been networking as well. Do that more than any engineer is comfortable with. So it's that
putting yourself out there.
Yeah, exactly. And this is part of it. I really appreciate you asking me here. A lot of the work that's being done in the Virginia Beach area has to do with construction and architecture, and they all are demanding PE licenses. And so I've been using that to get in, and I'm hoping a few of them will be listening to this podcast because they would do that.
Well, I think you're well qualified to probably look at any one of those, you know, professional engineer, mechanical engineering background, project management skills. There's a huge demand for project managers all over the country, but even fully remote things that I know they're around. But I do think you'll find something. Hopefully, you'll find exactly what you're looking for, and definitely we will help you with that. So we'll make sure we link your LinkedIn profile and all that fun stuff in here too. And maybe in the future we can follow up and see where you're at on that journey. But it's been really fun to hear your tips about that.
Well, I appreciate it. And my name is unique, and that's been helpful. It's common in Belgium. It's a Belgian name. Up here in the U.S., I've not met someone I wasn't related to. So if you look me up, you'll find me.
Yeah, I agree. It's a unique last name. I like it though. So, well, this has been fun, Craig. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for jumping on the podcast. I think you've shared a lot of tips with us, and really appreciate you doing this.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. See you next time.